cool build down in Miami where they did in South Beach, you know, the whole land was super high. I think it was like 39%. We actually didn't go to 30. I think we kept it at 33. So that's and that was recent. But what they ended up doing was having, you know, this property here, and they ended up, I think it was 33 million, and then they were going to put about 15 million into it. So another piece that's interesting is this ended up being historic tax credits. So there's other things that can play into buildings. So they're going to get about 1.5 here. They 1031 into it, right? So they didn't pay anything to get in. Oh, well, they did a little bit, but almost nothing to get in because of their situation. Then they came through and they got, say, like about 17 of cost seg because they put the 15 plus the 33. This is your CapEx. And we haven't quite finished because it takes about a year sometimes to get all the CapEx numbers. So the dust will settle and we'll have a little bit better of an idea. So you can see all these different items here, 33 million with no taxable event. Then you've got the CapEx kicking, you know, with no taxable event. Then this here is a tax credit. And for those who, you know, are familiar with a deduction versus a credit, deductions coming out, yeah, above the line, below the line. I see you doing it. Yeah. So, you know, above the line means that it's kind of part of this whole math piece. And then you take the tax rate and then you've got what you owe, right? Tax credits are right down here where they go, cool, is that what you owe? Subtract that. 5. So that when you hear tax credits, like we do the R&D tax credit and some other stuff, people sometimes mix up what the value is, which I think is another good plug real quick. If we can provide you a deduction so that you guys aren't just completely off the base here. Let's just say we get you $1 million deduction. That's realize what we're consulting to the client. You're getting at 37%. Again, if we're locking that rate in to keep it easy, you're getting 370K off your tax bill. So when someone says, hey, you're gonna get this deduction, that's the math that has to happen before you understand what the benefit is. The realized benefit, meaning it's real, not on paper anymore.
So real quick, did you get your question answered on the lane? Yeah, okay. Kyle, then we'll go back to Tom.
Brian, as far as the fees for your firm, is that just tied into the amount of the deduction, or is it a flat rate, or how does your fee structure work on that?
Depends. Great question. So
His favorite word, depends.
That one totally depends. Do I know you? Are you Mark Neely? Have you sent me work? Right? It's my business. So it really does. That one is like, let's have a conversation for sure. We do 3% of all deductions until we get to about 500 or 800,000. And we like that because on smaller buildings, we do have to kind of dig and get in there. And when we don't, that's not on development. That's going to be when you've already got it. We do what's called a PPA, which is totally different for a development, where we get to take all of their invoices and it's normally pretty buttoned up, and we get to go and do the site visits once or twice while they're building, and it's just a different project. The other one, it's up to us to still do a site visit, but come up with our own kind of way of looking at it. So if I do a flat rate, do you think I'm going to try to fight for your deck? Should I professionally? Do I have to? Right? So I believe that it's actually very beneficial to have a contingency. Once you hit a certain amount, we can't take a contingency because the numbers get staggering. And we've tried to put it into a financial model that makes sense, and we just have thrown it out. And what we normally do is, I will be very honest, I call a buddy of mine named Tim who works at PwC, and I give it to him. I pay him $50 to let me know what they would charge. And that's my kind of true north. I just say, hey man, here's a cool deal. Another one, would you mind just let me know what you guys would charge? Have I kicked him business? For sure. Because as a smaller company, sometimes people want PwC at the top. And I understand that. That is fine, because if I'm going to go, maybe I'm becoming a successful, $200, $300 million fund. Do I want BAY at the top of our cost seg, or do I want to go approach people and say, hey guys, we're one of the top kind of tier echelon people in our area. Here's our paperwork. One of the areas is going to be their financials, and within their financials, if they're audited by EY, and if, so there's just different ways to get in there. I tell people at a certain point, I say, we're trying to be the exact same quality and audit protection through the whole thing that you would get at a Big Four at around 75%. And we try to shoot for those markers, so. But the smaller ones, we started 10K as our smallest fee. We just did one, who knows Prominence? My 30A guy, yep. Hey, you look tan. You look tan.
Came back.
So Prominence, it depends. So Prominence, we've done about 14 now. So we have I just found out there's another area of Prominence. So, but of the 2 and 3 bedrooms in this, there's a huge complex. We are very prevalent down in 30A. And so we've done a lot of them. Turns out that there's A, B's, and C's. If I remember right, these are 3, 2, and maybe 3 again. But there's a mix of how many they are. We've gone in now and we have seen that these only change throughout the whole thing with maybe they threw a new lamp in. They're 2 years old and they are the same exact measurements and all of that. So what's happening more recently, we just had a partner at Deloitte who wanted to get hers done. And she's in their risk side. So this is a perfect question for her. I went, how would you feel about cost seg sampling, doing sample testing for this? And she goes, are you saying my number would go down significantly? I go, we might do it for free if you go through Deloitte and figure out how okay and kosher that would feel to you. So we kind of had this conversation and we reached out to some other people and started working. We are now comfortable doing these as long as we still take a look, some of the flooring and making sure that no major changes. We will go through and do these now as samples, just like we would if you guys owned the entire complex, by the way. It's the exact, there's nothing wrong with what we're doing in the sense that, say Travis he owns all 230 of them. And he says, hey, can you come through and do my complex? We just did Ronnie's, if you guys know Ronnie just bought this huge complex. He had, I think, 130. I think he's a member of your guys' organization. We did about 2 to 3 of each. We did 3 of each until we saw 2 that were just perfectly identical. And then we took the lower of the 2. We didn't take the average. And then we're very comfy saying, okay, for this build, let's say you've got the presidential suite in a hotel, you've got 5 different room types. We'll do 2 rooms. And once we do 2, some almost never 3. It's not standard. We really don't have to. Once you've done 2, we can say, okay, our numbers are within this value and we're going to take the middle and we're good. So that really depends. I think we're going to start doing Prominence for around like maybe 6K. It should be a $4,000, kind of off of our minimum, because at this point it's really,
Rinse and repeat.
it's rinse and repeat. It's totally rinse and repeat. I'd feel criminal. I literally have a spreadsheet I can open and change the address at the top. And we have to do, most of that is actually going towards the effort of building their deliverable at that point and having the, staff and stuff go through and literally change the address, change the different dimensions if they have some little shuffles here and there, but that makes sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Tommy?
Yeah, just a quick question on lead time. But my outright question is, what's the best time of year to engage you? Let's just say I got a $10 million property and it's February. Can I get cost seg done in time to issue K1s for my investors, right? So tell me, like, what's a good?
Yeah, let me give you like the expectations around the timelines. For sure, for sure. There's only 2 times I don't answer my phone. You just named one of them. Okay, so we try to get out 6 weeks before your due date. So if you have a period coming up, if you've extended or whatever the case is for your entity, if you're calling us within less than 6 weeks, fee wise, I double it. I'd say we normally do this for 12,000. If you want to pay me 24 today, we'll get a team out there the next day or 2. And I have a whole group of 3 to 4 guys that raise their hand during that month and a half, 6 week to 7 week period, who are literally on call, that fly all over the place. Which is great because they get paid a lot more and then everybody's happy, but don't do that because there's no reason. It's the exact same work product. I even think it's rushed because sometimes we don't get to go through the partner review, like the 2-tier partner review that we would like. And of course, if it's wrong, you can always go in and do some amending and stuff like that. It's not the end of the world, but in general, what it looks like to get a cost seg done. is we come in here, we give you an estimate, right? Then you get to decide and we will coach with you, like, if it makes sense. The estimate will also come with a consulting thing, like, hey, are you selling this in 2 years? Do you have any partners? Like, we'll go through that whole period. That takes about like 1 day. Very quick. By the way, cost seg is our cheapest, fastest, easiest service. So timelines on, I love cost seg. We get to meet new people, provide huge value, get in and out, and normally then wanting consultation on other things. I won't say harder, but other things. So we get that done. Then it takes maybe 5 days once you've signed to get you into the system, and then reach back out and say, hey, when's a good time to come out and do the site visit? Sometimes people are like, whenever you want, right? So we normally do like every 3 weeks. We do loops. We have 2 different teams. One goes east, one goes west. Almost all the guys are in Denver. So we've got 30A is a good example. We go to a lot. We're definitely out there every 6 weeks. So we pick a city, and sometimes people are on 9-week wait times because we're going to 2 others already. Then we'll pick that one. Sometimes I'll send like a lone wolf. That sucks. If you ever see one guy to come to your cost seg, it's because he drew the unlucky straw. I normally have teams of at least 2 so they can like hang out, help each other hold stuff, that type of thing. But in general, it takes maybe 3 to 6 weeks to go out and do the site visit. Then after that, it takes us about 4 weeks in the office. So all said and done, I like to tell people 8 weeks. If you need it expedited, we can normally do it in about 6 to 3-ish, right? Just depending on your circumstances. Some people, guys, another big, huge thing about cost seg. We had a guy that had this huge PPE. So I always think of PP&E, but personal protective equipment. Made like $20 million selling gloves, net like 4 or 5. So he has to now pay estimated quarterly taxes on that. Well, this guy from Israel, the first thing he did was call me. And he goes, hey, I just had my biggest sale ever. How do I get rid of the taxes? I don't know, how big are we talking on me? So he's like, hey, I've got and he has a CPA, and I've worked with her closely. She said, we don't have to really get this all lined up until about 3 weeks from now. Do you think you could at least give us the hard numbers, even without the deliverables, so that I can feel comfortable? We didn't write, side note, we did not get rid of the whole thing, but we cut maybe like 50 or 60K off his estimated tax bill. So it really depends. It depends on your needs, timelines. I wouldn't say our availability as much as what you need, and hopefully you don't come to us in those periods right before September. So I would say mid-August is starting to be a little tight, and definitely the majority of people are looking to have these numbers, because you still have to make estimated. Even if you file an extension, you still have to pay up. You don't get to just not pay that. So I'd say we do about 40 to 50% of our cost seg between late October and all the way up till the tax period there. About 2 weeks prior, we'll cut it off and say, I'm sorry, you'll have to extend. We'll get it to you as soon as we can, so that the team doesn't feel rushed yet.
Okay.
Can you speak to the bonus depreciation phasing out over the next few years and any potential legislation to extend?
Yes, dude. Yes, I'm so excited. Okay, guys, so bonus depreciation over the last 5 years was gangbusters. 100%. 100%.
That's gone to 80.
100%, which meant anything that we got into our shorter life buckets. I mean, that is the like magic or the hook for cost seg. Hey, because it was around before bonus. It's still nice to move from a $20 million building, maybe $1 million into 5 year. Now you're getting 200,000 per year. So it's still worth it. But that's why traditionally cost seg was for commercial property. Okay. With bonus depreciation, get that whole piece. So that's kind of what he's talking about here. The thing is that it was set to last for about 5 years, and now it's beginning to, my least favorite word on something I've spent so much time learning as a tax professional. It's sunsetting. Don't they like to make it sound nice? It's like going to Florida to die. Like it's just sunsetting down there. Oh, okay. Well, that's too bad. But the thing about cost seg, and it's proven over and over again, is that it is extremely beneficial to keeping the economy, especially the real estate market, churning. Because if I can not pay taxes and I'm a serial developer or, a real estate guy, and I, instead of paying $400,000, have $400,000 in my hand, where do I shove that?
Or buy another property.
The furnace, right back in. And they're very aware of that. So it's gone to 80, and I did not think this would come out till it hit 60 at all. Recently, we had a bill hit the floor. It's in discussion. Both sides. I've talked with a lot of folks who are all definitely just taking their own nobody knows type of thing. But I have talked to a lot of folks who say, yes, we want it. Everybody wants it. So I think we will see 100% bonus depreciation. I wouldn't write that or put my name on it, but I am pretty confident that before we hit 60, we will see that, because there's already a lot of murmur about getting that back up. Hopefully, and we are absolutely free of charge going to be going back. If they retroact it, we're just going to go right back, and we already have about 22 cost segs that I've put into a new bucket called, I literally call it my lucky charms bucket, which is, if it changes, I get to call all these clients, because my clients obviously don't want to hear from me for no reason. Can't just call my wealthier guys and go, hey man, good morning, so they want to hear from me for good stuff. So that's one of my tax kind of sales strategies, is to stay on top of that stuff. And if something comes out, to consult them. So I have a whole bucket of people I'm hoping I can say, hey, you're at 80. Well, guess what? We're gonna give you 20% higher on that value, pending. We'll see.
So we have about 5 minutes, and so before we give Brian closing moments here is, I think what he just said is very key on cost segregation. One of the biggest things is, and I'll just give you an example. We have a client that bought a 56 unit apartment complex not long ago. Had a cost seg come out, have them come out and do a cost seg on it. It was in 80s vintage. So I think it's 86, 88, something like that year, the build. Anyway, his cost seg came back where he saved almost $500,000, right? So what did he do with that money? What we just said, right? That's one of the beauties of cost segregation. You get that money, you can go out and, so what did he do? He turned around, went and bought another property, using that money, right? So that's the beauty. That's why you do, cost segregation. That's why I'm always just absolutely floored when somebody comes to us and they've been investing for 5 or 6 years
Crazy.
in commercial.
Oh, yeah.
And I say cost segregation, and they look at me like, what are you talking about? Right?
Yeah.
So that's the whole point of having Brian here today, is to educate you on cost segregation and help you understand how important it is as an investor to make sure you do cost segregation on your commercial property. So
Yep.
anyway, that's my
And
endorsement, and I'll let you.
yeah, I really appreciate you having me.
Yeah.
I'm very grateful for everyone who came today. Well, I'll talk to you right after this. You're first. Right after this, I will be around. A quick plug. I pass out these flyers. We also do ERCs. That program is definitely coming to an end. So if you know a business that had W-2 employees during the pandemic, give us a call. It's like a 10 or 15-minute consulting piece. If they were clearly impacted, or we can see revenue recognition things that make sense to move forward. We do contingency on that as well. So they don't pay anything. We've actually moved our payments on that till they get their checks. So it's free until they get all the money to pay us a percentage. It's definitely a community outreach. I have about 60 interns working for me this summer. We are really serious about trying to help businesses and people who are impacted by the pandemic. On the cost seg side, for those of you, because I didn't get into it, because I think we had a lot of good conversation, but for those of you who are more so trying to understand it as a tool for sales, it is phenomenal to just learn the basics, the X's and O's of what is cost seg, how can I bring it up intelligently, and bring me in as quickly as you want. Mark's a great example where he says, I really think you're a good fit for this. He's got all this stuff. He says, but let me just introduce you to the CPA that you can ask any questions you have. And then, at that point, if it works, which we will absolutely, your CPA comes to us. That is my entire brand. We will consult them appropriately. We will not cash grab. If it's a great deal, we'll cut it with them. We'll work with them. We really try to get into the community for cost seg, because it's our doorbuster. It's by far our cheapest, fastest thing. So it's also my relationship tool, because nobody wants to sit and hear me go around R&D tax credits. That's like a 2-hour, continuing education type thing where it's just nobody follows and it's just brutal. But for these, if you can learn some basics and introduce them, if it's a good fit, I promise you, I will make you look good by doing my job right and handing your client cash. Which if they are a repeat client, I'm sure you guys all have someone who you're hoping will call you, because every time they call, they're calling you to buy another property. I have the same group of clients who are clearly in that world, and that's what they're trying to build and do. And every 3 to 4 months, I get the same calls from these guys going, let's go, and they'll send me the address and we're ready to rock, because we're just in the rhythm of it. And there are absolutely people through every stop there that we don't capture with title, loan, the real estate agents. There's a whole world of other people who get to prosper from this capital that we put back in their hands, including Mr. Truman. Thank you so much for having me, dude. I
You
appreciate it.
bet. Thank you, thank you.
Yep.
So we want to thank Ryan. And again, appreciate everybody coming, and, you know, for all the folks that this is your first time, we have this first Thursday of every month. So we have different speakers, you know, every single month that come and talk on, you know, multifamily and your investment. So you're welcome back a month from now on the first Thursday. Please come back and join us again. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Appreciate it.